Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening to those of you that are watching this video online. This is Pastor Sherman Ford, and we're doing another video interview with another wonderful, gifted, dynamic preacher, pastor, friend of mine. I am thrilled and excited beyond words to introduce this and present to others my friend and my brother, Rickey Harvey. He serves as pastor of the Mount Olivet Baptist Church in Rochester, New York. We met first here in the state of Arizona. He just finished preaching our early worship, and when I tell you it was phenomenal, I mean to tell you it was phenomenal. It was a magnificent time of worship with him. He's a gifted preacher, teacher, singer, a celebrator of God's Word, and I am super excited to have him here today. Pastor Harvey, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, and I'm glad to be here.
Man, appreciate you so much. I know that, first of all, I need to say thank you for your time, because I'm hoboing in, and we both know you are in Arizona to install your son, Arante Jenkins, into the Friendship Church. And when I heard that you were coming, I called you on the phone and asked if you would come over and preach, really, our 7:45 and 10:30. And you had the nerve to tell me no on the 10:30, because you were here on somebody else's dime. But man, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Well, the pleasure is mine, and I really wish I could be here, not so much to preach in the 10:45 service, but really to experience the service, because what we experienced out there today, apart from the preaching, was magnanimous. Your praise and worship, I'm working in my ministry toward a ministry of excellence. And I got a flair of excellence today being here at Canaan, and so thank you for this opportunity as well.
Well, Elder, let me say, you are generous and kind. Pastor Campbell would say you're verbose with your words.
Well, I mean, excellence is not new to you, you know. I just think the excellence that I saw years ago has just gone to another level.
Oh, praise God.
I see the church in another level. I see you. I see you in another level. That not only do I see God growing your church, but I see growth in you. And so I'm thankful to be here. It was ordained that I would be here at this time. I'm already late for Tucson. I may not even be on the preach when I get there. But
you have an hour and a half drive to Tucson.
This is the longest drive.
It's the longest drive.
It seems like 3 hours of desert. When you drive and drive, you still got driving to do.
Man, listen, I appreciate you. Seriously. I want to talk with you quickly, and to those who are watching online, and this will be on our website and such, just quickly, I know your time is short, about you, about your ministry. Would you tell us a little bit about Rickey Harvey, where you're from, rearing, raising, and etc.?
Yes, born in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm 52 years old, and
me too, Dad.
You're 52 also.
Yeah, same age.
Okay, wonderful. You know, I hear preachers now that didn't know that they were called to preach. I knew when I knew me. That God had a calling on my life to do something that would be in His will. And I didn't actually know, honestly, as a kid, what exactly it would be, but I knew God had a calling on my life to work for Him and to live my life for Him and to serve Him. And as I grew, watching my dad be a deacon, I've been everything in the church that I could possibly be to satisfy what I thought was that call, that burn, that unction. You know, there's not other than motherboards. I've done it all.
You've done it all.
I've done it all, and I'm somewhat bothered by the new ministers who come straight into the church. They don't teach Sunday school, they don't teach Bible study, they don't look after the pastor, they don't sing in the choir, they're not ushers, they don't even come to Bible study, and then they want to come to the pulpit and say, I'm a preacher.
They want to start a church.
And the next day they started a church.
But denomination.
Or denomination. But I didn't come there right. I came through the church, in the church. And even when I started my calling, I didn't want to preach. I wanted to quartet sing. And I told the Lord,
Elder, you can sing. You did some of that today. You can sing and celebrate and say it. But go ahead.
You are kind, and I appreciate your kindness.
Let me tell y'all, if you don't believe me, go to our website, cmbctwc.org. pull up today's date, which is, what's the date? No, October the 16th, 17th, 16th. And go to our early worship and you'll watch what I'm saying to be true. Go ahead, Harvey.
So I just kind of had an agreement with God. If you don't have anything for me to do, I'm already singing, I'm a deacon, I'm working in the church, I was 22 years old. If you don't need me other than to just sit in the pulpit, let me continue to work. And it's like God, the old song, I signed the contract with Jesus. It's like God and I had an agreement. And Pastor Ford, I preached my first sermon in June 1986, and that Friday night, the first church that I would become pastor of elected me. Church was different from what it is now.
No doubt. Hold on, back up. You said that too fast.
I preached on a Sunday. And Friday night,
you were called to a church.
I was called to a church. I was
less than a week.
Less than a week.
5 days later, you're the pastor.
They called my mom's house and they asked, "Is the young man who sings with the group, the Dixie Wonders?" They didn't even know my name. They knew I was a singer with that group or a member of that group, and they asked my mom, "Is that young man there?" And she handed me the phone, and the deacon says, "Pastor Harvey, we elected you to be our pastor. Would you come and serve?"
Unbeknownst to you?
Unbeknownst to me. My second church was in Como, Mississippi. My first church was a first, third, and fifth Sunday church.
I got you. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I preached there. I did. I went to preach. We didn't discuss contracts and business and all of that kind of stuff like it is now. Preaching was a ministry when I came into it, and it's business now. Same thing with the second church, and I stayed at both of those churches for approximately 2 years, and then I went to serve what would probably become known as the church that launched me into whoever I am, and that was St. Paul Baptist Church in Memphis, where I stayed there for 10 years. And
you came to Tucson from there?
I came to Tucson from Memphis.
From Memphis,
A lot of people think Memphis was my first church. Memphis was actually my third church.
Now, honestly, we've known each other for some years. I thought Memphis was your first church until
Memphis
right now.
was my first church, but Memphis was my third church. Memphis was my first church where I had church meetings. I had deacon meetings, trustee meetings, board meetings, and that's when I learned what boards were, that kind of thing.
You know what Evie Hill says about boards?
I do know. And Evie was right.
He was right.
Evie was right. That's why I had to start dealing with budgets. I had to have vision. I had to cast vision. I had to say what we wanted to do and that kind of thing. And then later the Lord moved me out here to Tucson, Arizona, where again I stayed for 10 years. And I've been in Rochester, New York now at a wonderful church, Mount Olivet Baptist Church, a wonderful church in the city of Rochester, doing great things where I'm very proud to be.
Man, I tell you what, when I see your website, I haven't been to the church yet, but we know Pastor Preston. He told me a lot about the church and some others, and the word on you on the street in terms of preachers is that it's a phenomenal church and a great work, and God has grown it.
Well, I'm glad that's what the word.
Well, you know, with the
that must be the new word.
That's the new word. That's the new word.
And I thank God for the new word on the street.
Well, you preached shifting the atmosphere today, so God is shifting the atmosphere. I mean, let's talk a little bit about just kind of, you know, your story in terms of how you got from those first and third Sunday churches to where you are now. When you were here, I know you completed some additional education. What kind of encouragement or points can you lift from your life and share particularly with preachers and pastors right now that might help them?
Well, one of the things that I did, Pastor, I have 5 degrees, 2 bachelors, 2 masters, and a doctorate. But I don't consider myself one of those educated preachers because everything that I own in terms of status, if there's any name recognition, if there's any waves to make across the country, I made those waves. God took me all over this land and country, 33, 34 states. National Baptist, I preached for all of the national bodies before I ever had a degree. The old people believe that that God would take care of you, that God would lead you and God would guide you. And they believed that we had a relationship with God.
Yeah.
Later, when it became more business oriented, then pastors had to we had to look like CEOs. We had to look like, you know, people, we had to be credentialed.
Right.
I don't knock that in any wise, and being on this side, I recommend to young pastors who are traveling the country like I did years ago, go to school and prepare yourself, not so much for your young days, because your gifts will make room for you. But it will come a time when the room that it made does not satisfy the thirst in your heart anymore. And if you don't go to school and don't prepare yourself, when that room no longer feeds the hunger of your heart, then you have nowhere to go, because the churches today, of which I agree with, you need seminary training, you need the discipline. And churches want to know that you are disciplined enough to sit down and listen to somebody else teach you, and not be out here doing all the teaching and can't be taught. So I do agree. You got to go. You got to go to school. You need, everybody needs to go to school now, because everybody, the people that we're teaching, they're educated. You know, they've been to school, and then they're Googling everything we say. So you've got to be preaching truth now.
That's right. That's right.
You got to preach truth now. So I certainly say, you just can't come out with fluff now. So I say do that, and then I say stay true to your calling, and not go with every wave that comes along. Even when all of the different waves came along during my 30 years, I just stayed a traditional gospel preacher. Can I tell you this? My son told me many years ago, he said, "Dad, old people like to hear you preach, but young people don't." He said, "I come because you're my son, but you got to get with it." And you know, I got a degree in psychology, so I wanted to hear what this young person was saying to me, because we want to attract everybody. He said, "Dad, you just preached the Bible."
And that was a compliment.
I didn't know whether to hit him or something, because he was saying, "You just preached the Bible." I said, "Well, what else am I supposed to preach?" He said, "Read the I won't call the names out because I don't want to advertise for the company. But he said, read this magazine, read that magazine, read that magazine, and get some, and bring some of the worldly people into your sermons, so that the young people can identify with that." I think what young people fail to realize is we've been young. We've been young, and I didn't get what I got from some basketball player. I didn't get it from a dancer. What has sustained me for 30 years is the Lord.
The gospel of Jesus Christ.
The gospel of Jesus Christ. And so I don't knock those who change with the wind, but maybe that's their calling. My calling has been to just stay true to the gospel as I read it, as I interpret it, and as the Lord feed me.
Okay, on that note, let me ask you this, because there's a lot of great preachers across the country, you know, cross-denominational, et cetera, et cetera. But kind of talking in our vein, it's an amazing thing. I'm going to just throw some names out and just give me your responses. Jasper Williams Jr.
Incredible. Incredible. My mentor, the person that I mimicked. Here's another thing. Years ago, I could sound just like him. And we're personal friends. I called him one day. I told him, I said, "Reverend Williams, everywhere I go, people say I sound like you." He said, "Ricky, when they say you sound like me, they ain't cussing you out." So, yes, phenomenal.
C.L. Franklin. I'm going back.
Yes, and that's you're going back to my school. Same vein. Same vein. That was he was
almost daddy to Jasper.
He was to Jasper Williams what Jasper Williams is to me.
Joel C. Gregory.
Joel C. Gregory was a more than a trendsetter. He was a what do you call it? A trailblazer. He was a trailblazer.
I started to say is because you made it sound like he was gone.
Right.
We just talking about two.
Yes.
He is
a trailblazer. He's crossed racial lines, denominational lines.
And you know what's interesting, Ricky? I think about his book, and you remember when he was at First Baptist Dallas, and when he wrote that book. And I think about stories. You talk about a great story.
Yeah.
I mean, his testimony is a phenomenal testimony.
Yeah.
Marcus Cosby.
Marcus Cosby is what I call an end-time preacher.
Okay.
Yeah, Marcus.
What do you mean?
Marcus preaches to the time.
Okay, gotcha.
He's
Issachar?
End time. Issachar.
They understood the times. The men of Issachar.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I thought you was talking about a preacher there.
No.
I'm like, I haven't met Issachar yet.
my mistake there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Marcus Cosby.
Wonderful.
Frederick Haynes.
Frederick. I could say the same thing. Now, I don't know where we are in age, but Freddie has been big.
He's 55 now, I think.
He's only a little older than me, but he has been big in my eyes.
Yeah.
All of the days of knowing him.
Right, absolutely.
You know, and some of his big was not necessarily, he's a great preacher.
Yeah.
But he's a great person.
Right.
He had the walk, he had the style, he had the profile, he had the class.
And the pedigree.
And the pedigree.
I mean, his father and his grandfather.
Yes.
You know, both preachers.
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Harry S. Wright, Jr.
You know what? I would say different in his own way.
Yeah.
In my book, you can't say he's like this preacher.
No.
Or he's like that preacher.
Yeah.
He's cut from his own cloth.
Yeah.
And there's not another cloth that I know that you can say is him.
One of the things I love about him in particular, him, Manuel Scott Sr.
Yeah.
But you talk about somebody who can preach, keep low tone, and I mean barely raise his voice.
That's right.
And the entire church is comatose at the end.
Almost puts me in the mind of Emmanuel Scott.
Yeah,
if I had to, if I had to connect them, I'd say it could put me in the mind of.
Anybody else? Any other preachers that have strongly influenced you that you want to maybe say a word about, or encourage people as they watch this to listen to, pick up a book by?
Sure.
Who would that be?
Sherman Ford.
I'm gonna pay you later. Bless you.
Sherman, back in the day when I was coming to Golden Gate all the time, I've always admired your. You sort of put me in the mind of the preachers that you name. Yeah. You cut from a mold of your own. Yeah. Even watching you today interact with your people, you have an amazing class. You know how to work with your people. You're smooth.
God bless you, Doc.
You sit back. I've seen delegation in the ministry, which is what I major in, is equipping the people to do the work of the ministry. And what I've noticed about you in my short time being here even this morning is your ability to equip the people to do the work of the ministry and to get the job done.
Now let me say this. I mentioned in early worship, we have a conference coming up, to those of you who are watching, the Church Leadership Training Conference, CLTC 2017. This is going to be really my first time kind of reintroducing this. And I'm hoping, and you all pray with me, that I can get Pastor Harvey to come back and, just share with us, because that's what we want to talk about. Patrick Walker, who you may know out of New Mass in Washington, D.C., is going to be with us. Pastor Fred Campbell out of Redwood City is going to be with us.
Didn't you say in February?
In February.
I would pay you to let me come
because of the
get
snow.
Out of the snow.
I understand.
It would be an entirely different experience. Getting me in February would be totally different from this experience.
What we're planning on doing is that Friday doing like a worship service, and then we're going to do the workshop. Will be Saturday, 8:30 to noon. And here's the thing that I'm really excited about, Ricky, is. And I got this idea really from the inimitable Dr. Ralph Douglas West.
Okay.
Now, when you talk about a preacher that absolutely thrills me in terms of his preaching style, his whole demeanor, it is Ralph Douglas West, Brook Hollow Baptist Church, better known as the Church Without Walls in Houston, Texas. He did this thing at his IC3 conference, which is coming up in April, so I want to push that. I didn't go last year. I don't know if you've been to it. I haven't been to that one.
I have not.
We should meet there, man, in April. But the IC3, he does this thing called Story Time. So I just heard about it, and I thought how valuable it is. You and I talked Man, there's been, in the last month, 3 pastors I know of that have committed suicide.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
That's right.
And I can get emotional about that.
I understand.
I mean, several others who, in the last year, 2 of them sat down after preaching and had strokes and died in the pulpit.
That's right.
Now, here's my point with story time testimonies. Part of your sermon today was dealing to some degree with your own story.
Sure.
And man, I think there's value in having men of God like you come and say, hey, you all see the glory, as you said, but you don't necessarily know the story.
Yeah.
And so, man, that piece to me will be invaluable.
Absolutely.
So, man, if you'll come for about $1.50, we'll supersize your Happy Meal. Do it to a supersize.
Mayo on both sides.
Mayo on both sides. We'll hook you up. Man, listen, okay, let me close it. I know you have to go to Tucson. Here's my last question for you. What is Pastor Reverend Dr. Rickey Bernard Harvey's process in preaching? I got a chance to talk to some other guys, Jerry Carter and Manuel Jr. and several others. Freddie interviewed him. You know, he's done our revival about 5 years in a row now. Man, and I ask him all the same question. What is your process for sermon prep? And then I'm gonna let you go.
Okay, my process begins immediately after the last sermon I preach.
Okay.
And that's listening to the Lord. Okay. First I listen to the Lord, and of course I read books, but in my older age, experience, I was reading, I encourage everybody to read. T.D. Jakes said something to me here in Phoenix at a conference once. He preached a phenomenal message, and I asked him, I said, where did you get that? He said, if I told you, you wouldn't believe it. And I said, try me. He said, the Bible. And from that point, he says, Rickey, you would be surprised at the preachers who don't read
the Bible.
The Bible. He said, we read everybody's books, but we don't read the Bible. And so, Sherman, I have found these latter days that reading the Bible, is primary for me.
Okay.
And it helps me to read the Bible, hear the Word of God, and try to feel the hearts, the pulse of the people where I'm preaching, who I'm preaching to, even before I get there. Even before I get there. That's my church, your church, where I'm going this evening. I try to feel the pulse of the people before I get there, so that whatever is being written can be relevant to the people that I'm preaching to.
Okay. That's awesome. So you listen to the Lord.
I listen to the Lord.
You read the Bible as your fundamental foundational book.
Yes, absolutely.
And you started immediately after the last sermon.
And immediately, and then I put thoughts down, points down, first in my mind, and now that I'm older, the phones are the best things in the world. You know, I get a good point now, I jot it in my phone. My phone. And by Thursday,
you start writing down.
I start parsing out and putting this, it's like a cake, putting it together. And once it's all together, I go through it. Again, I got this from T.D. Jakes. I go through it and I see how much of this is Rickey. And how much of this is God. I said to my youth pastor who's preaching for me, and he sent me a copy of his manuscript, I said, nice, now go through there and take all of you out. And just leave what God is saying to the people in it.
Now, let me tell you, now you talk about influence. I remember the first sermon I ever preached. Now, I was influenced at that time. This is 1900 years ago when I was at St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church in San Jose, California. And Manuel Scott Jr. used to do our youth revival. And man, we had Manuel for so many years. You know, Manuel's preaching is repetitive. And it's like Freddie Haynes' preaching. If you listen to it too much, you start preaching like us.
That's right.
And man, I wrote out my sermon on manuscript, and I presented it to Manuel Scott Jr. at lunch before I presented it to J.D. Houston. And Manuel said to me, Sherman, now buddy, you know what I'm buddy, that's a mighty good sermon, buddy, it's a good sermon, but Sherman, it's just too much of me in there. I'd heard him all week, and every other word was amen, amen, amen. So I thought of that because of what you just said. He said, man, put in what God gave you.
That's right.
As opposed to through your own personality.
That's right.
And so preaching is truth through personality.
That's right. And then go through that, even when it's all done, even now, I go through them, I look and I said,
take Rickey out.
And what what's in this message that does not edify, that does not lift, edify God and lift the people. I try not to be, I make sure that I don't use God's pulpit to abuse God's people who got up to knowing that I'm preaching and they still came. And so I want to encourage people and not live, you know your sins, you know your problems, you know you're bad. I just want to take this word and give of God and let God judge you, let God convict you, but I'm not there to do that.
Well, Don, listen, I'm really going to close now. To those of you that are watching.
I'm late now. Yeah, I know. I may as well stay.
I really wish you would. I mean, seriously, you're playing. You know, I want to thank you for watching this. I want to encourage you to pass it on to others. You know, share the the website and the interviews that we do, because the point is not to lift Pastor Ford up or Pastor Harvey up, but to encourage others.
That's right.
And so, thank you again for watching. Rickey, anything you want to say?
I just want to say
you got coming up?
Yes, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. We just finished a big, what we call Harvest Week revival in our church, and actually coming out here was sort of built into my schedule as rest time.
Okay.
But
well, you ain't getting none of
work
that.
out like
You're right. You ain't getting none of that. Well, listen,
thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, man. I love you in Christ. Thank God for your ministry. And y'all heard him say online that he's coming back in February. You heard him say he's coming back for a sandwich with mayo on both sides, on the Syrian side.
More than happy.
We appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. God bless you. God keep you. Goodbye.